Okay, so today we have done quite a ad hoc, off the fly recording because we've had a fantastic opportunity to get a few activists together to have a chat about various topics actually that are very current, things that are happening right now. We're really excited. What a fantastic few people we've got on. We're going to have to do a bit of jiggery pokery because of bail conditions and stuff, which we'll explain as we go. But with us at the moment, we have Dolly, who is a cracking lady. Who came up with that?
No idea. I thought we were all smashing.
Smashing or cracking lady, who's going to tell us about what she's been up to very recently. We have Alice, who's not currently with us at the moment, but will be joining us with Gabby. And she'll be talking to us about prisoner support. And Gabby is talking to us about a few things actually, isn't she? So there's going to be lots of information giving and lots of fantastic first-hand experiences. Tracy, you're going to talk initially about someone who's taken part in Disobeying the Doc recently.
That's right, Dave McKenney. He did that on Thursday while I was visiting a bank, shall we say. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Disobeying the Doc is something that those of us who are just beyond frustrated about what has been going on in the courts up until recently, there does seem to be a bit of a change happening. And basically, rather than just allow them to go on with business as usual, which really means you don't get much of a say as a person, the judges don't really talk to you, the prosecutor, our lawyer and the judge normally just talk amongst themselves and you kind of get dealt with. So Dave glued on and live streamed. Unfortunately, they cut his camera, they took his camera off him really quickly. He didn't actually get to say, and I know he'd have been wonderful. A lovely rebel did a little report outside of the court, so we'll share all the links to that. Please do have a look, and please do send him some messages. He's in prison. I think he got a month sentence, of which he should serve 14 days, although we're hoping maybe they'll review that and they won't keep him quite as long. But yeah, Dave McKenney, the latest person to Disobeying the Doc, as we call it. Stefania Morosi, who did that a couple of weeks ago, she's also out now. And yeah, also Paula Murphy is free. Yeah.
And so for anyone that doesn't know, do you want to just briefly, we did talk about Paula and previously, but just briefly who she is and why we're very happy about that news?
Paula Murphy is one of the most incredible young people I know. Blair likes her too. She did almost 5 weeks in prison in Ireland. She took action against I think it's called the Bureau of Foreign Affairs. Sorry if I got that wrong. And yeah, and has just come out of serving an awfully long time. I can't imagine being in there for quite that long, although we may all have to get our heads around it at some point. So she's out, and she's rightly so, she's having a little rest, but she'll come and talk with us properly in a few days when she's settled. So I don't want to say too much about that now. Paula speaks for herself so well. I'm not going to even try.
She's a real inspiration, isn't she? Because she's young, and we were talking about how for us it's quite motivating because she is the generation who this is the future that they face. We've been privileged enough to have a little fantasy period of what the future would look like, and that we had it all mapped out for us and everything would be fine, and her generation certainly don't have that privilege. So it'd be absolutely amazing at some point to have an opportunity to speak to her. And she is very passionate, and yeah, and she was held for a month, wasn't she, on remand, which is
5 weeks. Yeah, she is. She's totally incredible, and I missed her loads. And yeah, she knows what she's talking about and what needs doing. So we should all listen all listen to them children, because like you said, it's their futures. You know, we may or may not see all sorts of things, but they most certainly will, you know. And every day the banks and the government take no action is another day that they, you know, that their future gets made worse. So.
And I believe the links to her action were in the first video, if anybody wants to go back and watch those. And am I right in thinking that Dave was from XR Cambridge? I seem to remember that being streamed from there.
That's right, yeah, XR Cambridge. And like I said, there's a really good video, a fellow rebel, you know, they take our phones away, they lock us up to try and silence us. So all the people who support on the outside, it's so valuable because we won't be silenced, you know, threatening us with locking up our bodies. They can't keep the truth locked up anymore. And it's everybody, you know, people taking actions and all the supporters. It's really making a difference. And having the Shell 7 found not guilty on Friday, which I heard in a magistrate's dock. Yeah, no, I was in a magistrate's dock with Susan's life, shitting myself. My sister was convinced we were going away, and the judges went out to deliberate our future. And our wonderful supporters in the gallery were all is free, and the Shell 7 were found not guilty by a jury trial. So there's lots happening. So yeah, so if you've been excited by all these recent events, shall we? I know Dolly has got some experience to share, and some dates where we can all get together, maybe.
Yeah, and we should definitely, if somehow anybody has missed the story about the Shell 7, we'll put a link to that, because yeah, that's it's huge, and it's really lifted everybody and motivated everybody, and is a super big deal for the whole climate movement and everyone involved in it.
Yeah, you let real people, you know, give them the time, let them sit down for a couple of weeks, listen to us and why we're doing this, and they know exactly what needs doing, and they're voting is the wrong word, but they're judging in ways the courts can't. It's yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you, lovely. Lovely Dolly.
Oh, hello, lovely Sarah.
Hello. So why are you a smashing lady?
Oh gosh, that's a right old question, isn't it? So you want to know about the action, do you?
Yes, please.
All right. So on the 7th of April at 7 a.m, me and 6 of my friends went down to the Barclays headquarters, and we put some stickers on the window saying, "In case of climate emergency, break glass." And then we very carefully cracked their windows with some beautifully painted hammers, and yeah, waited to get taken away. We did this because Barclays, they've funded fossil fuels to the tune of about £145 billion, and that's since the 2015 Paris Agreement. And last year in 2020, they actually increased their investments. They have no sign of slowing down at all. So yeah, I'd handwritten a letter to the CEO the week before when I'd been down with the dirty scrubbers and our wobbly washing machine, and I'd handed it to the security to pass on. And then just to make sure that he got it, I sent an email as well to him. And he didn't get back to us or, yeah, be concerned about starting any meaningful dialogue. So action had to be taken a little bit further. It all went quite well.
It was beautiful.
And so for the Dirty Scrubbers action is kind of being taken up by a lot of XR groups as well, isn't it? Where people get dressed up in cleaning gear and then either go into the bank or outside of the bank and are cleaning it as a way to kind of and it's not particularly disruptive, but it's a really good way to engage with people, and actually it's a really joyful, fun action to take part in. And then you guys stepped it up a gear, and I think those kind of like statistics they're really hard to grapple with, aren't they? Because they're so huge that it almost becomes meaningless. And I suppose we're trying to ask people to stop and really try and picture that and about what that means, because I think that's quite often where people get lost with it when you're talking about numbers that big. And I think there's been a huge amount of criticism from certain corners about what those kinds of actions, what kind of message that sends out. And what would you say about the kind of accusations of the mindless vandalism and how those kinds of actions aren't endearing activists to the broader public?
It's been really, really interesting because it's certainly kind of started a huge conversation around violence and what is violence. And it's really opened up the conversation around kind of what Barclays are actually doing to the planet. So some voices have said that they didn't agree with the action, they don't agree with breaking windows, but they also didn't know what Barclays were doing, and now they're aware and they're going to switch their banks from Barclays. So even people that have found the action not to their tastes, they've still taken something from it in the knowledge that, yeah, they're actually putting their money into destroying the planet, which is interesting. But yeah, the responses have been really, really interesting. Women that had never taken action before or never felt comfortable being arrested have started kind of stepping up and going, yeah, I feel like I'm ready to do this now. And I feel it's been partly because it's been a group of women and a really kind of safe, supportive, loving, caring space. And the voices that are saying, yeah, mindless vandalism, have no idea about the kind of processes these women have been through in the run up to this action, really taking everything into consideration, their own feelings, their families, the staff in the building, the safety of everybody, really kind of thought through in really, really great detail.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because in the last video, me and Tracy were talking about the vandalism aspect, you know, whether that can be counted as vandalism anyway, and that, you know, it's because even I still get that, like, oh, it's still, oh, I find it really difficult. But at the same time, I have now come to a point where I recognize that that level of damage in terms of what the bank is doing, and we just can't see it, is like, it's almost ridiculous that we're getting upset about it. And the idea that property kind of has, we have this reverence for property, and that somehow bricks and mortar and glass are to be revered and respected, and it's just a building, but what is inside that building and what it represents, what it symbolizes, is massive death and destruction. And when you think about that, smashing a couple of the windows kind of seems almost ridiculously understated. And for a lot of people, are kind of saying, well, you know, there are other ways to go about it. What would you say to that?
I would love to know the other ways to go about it. We're quite a reflective movement, and if there is a way to convince Barclays that defunding fossil fuels is a really good idea, and they know a way to do that, I would love to hear it, and we all would. Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about the bigness of the number, and not being able to comprehend it because it's so huge. And I don't know if I've got these figures completely right, but someone was talking last week about this. So 1 million seconds, I think, will take you somewhere into next week, whereas 1 billion seconds will take you like 32 years into the future. So it's just such a vast difference. But I think a lot of people, when they hear millions and billions, are just like, oh yeah, that's quite a lot. I don't think I've answered your question, but
well, you did. You did. One of the girls in my group worked out in her cell that in order to reach the value of money that they're spending on destructive business, we would have to smash their windows every single day for over 40 years. every single day for over 40 years. And then she said, oh, I might be wrong, it might be more like 60. So I think you answered it beautifully. It's yeah.
Somebody else did some maths as well. We found out that if we changed the amount of economic damage to London that the suffragettes did during their kind of campaign for equality, that they actually caused £8 billion worth of damage to London city. And we did a little bit of maths as well. And I think we worked out that we would have to do that Barclays action over 4,000 times to cause the amount of damage the suffragettes did.
Definitely proportionate.
Yeah. And it is that kind of and it's taken even me, so I've got a background in therapy and psychology, I've been in the movement for 2 years, and it's still taken me quite a lot of processing to come to a point where not only have I gone, actually this is proportionate, but this is necessary. So I completely understand people's reactions to it, but I also really ask people to engage with it, that yes, it's okay to have that kind of like visceral initial reaction of going, oh, but we don't do that, we don't damage property, and start engaging with the why, much more with the why, and not just the kind of vitriolic reaction to we're not supposed to do that, and that every other possible avenue has been explored. And I also think you've made a really good point, actually, that isn't really talked about very much, about how much thought and planning goes into these kinds of actions, that the mindless element is irrelevant. It's not, it can't be applied to these kinds of actions. And I think sometimes because they're not, the whole action isn't filmed, so you can't see necessarily like the people gearing up for it and getting themselves into a place where they can go ahead with it, and that it's very calm and it's done in a very thoughtful way, which people just can't associate with damaging property. That all we've got is this history of people rioting when they do that kind of thing, that it's really hard for people to shift their perceptions to this actually being something that is actually peaceful. And just asking people to kind of sit with that a bit and try and work through it a little bit, and come to their own conclusions after having given it some thought and consideration.
So yeah, I completely understand people's kind of initial feelings, because we're taught from a very early age, aren't we, that we look after things properly and we're very, very careful and we don't break things. And I think it was as difficult for the women that took part in the action as it is for anyone sitting at home. I don't know kind of how much of this might have to be edited out because of court cases and stuff. But yeah, during the planning, there was one meeting where there were 20 women, and I just wished it had been recorded, because it was like the most powerful and heartbreaking thing that I'd ever seen. We went around the room and each woman got a chance to kind of speak about how she was feeling so far, and every woman spoke her truth, and there was so much similarity between how the women were thinking, and everyone just ended up crying. And kind of conversation was around, we shouldn't have to be doing this. We don't want to do this. We're really scared. We don't know what else to do. All really, really thoughtful women that have tried so many different avenues of petitioning and sitting in a road and trying everything that's, not quite as spicy as smashing a window, but I've just been making no progress at all. And the years are just flying by. Heartbreaking.
Well, let's keep ourselves out of trouble from talking about too much. So for anybody who's never been to an action or anything before, Dolly, would you like to talk about, try and encourage people, come and meet us in London? Would you like to talk a little bit about the Free the Press stuff?
Oh, I would love to, yes. So in September last year, I was part of the group of activists who shut down Murdoch's printing presses. And this was a protest to do with kind of media ownership, that just at the time it was 5 billionaires. Now one of them's died, so it's just 4 billionaires that control kind of 80% of our country's media. And it's getting worse. We're getting new kind of right-wing opinionated news channels getting pumped into our houses in the next few weeks. So even if you don't choose to read The Sun and the Daily Mail, you can fall asleep on the sofa and you can be hearing that stuff, and your children can be hearing that stuff pumped into their brains, and it's terrifying. The Free the Press campaign is continuing, and the first weekend out of lockdown, the 26th and 27th of June, we're going to have a big action weekend in London, and it's going to be incredible. On the Saturday afternoon, there's the People's March Against Austerity, and XR are going to be supporting with that, which will be really, really lovely. And then we'd like to invite everybody to a big party in London, in a big park, where there will be food and dancing and merriment and music, and a chance to connect and speak to people and just be together again. And then on the Sunday, we're going to have a big old march through London. There may be some big puppets coming along. There could be some Boris dancers. There's going to be all sorts of interesting things, which may or may not be confirmed. A few surprises as well. So it'd be lovely. Get down to London, 26th of June. Let's have a party.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily, they see a lot of the quite serious actions and miss out on a lot of the joy, because our last video was talking about like the highs and lows of activism, and that actually it can be quite, at times it can get quite grueling and quite hard, because you're constantly trying to weigh up, I don't like doing these things, but at the same time nothing else has worked and I feel compelled, there is no other option, and you're wrestling with that constantly, and that's not easy. And so we try and inject joy into a lot of actions, because actually that helps kind of lift you into it. And why shouldn't there be? There is joy in taking action, and that sounds fantastic. And I think when people come and they join that kind of action, it's a really gentle way into it, and there's no pressure for anybody to be doing anything, and there's a lot, and kids come along, and there's music, and there's just lovely people. That sounds absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I think me and Tracy could probably do a whole video actually on press and our
Oh, we'll definitely invite Dolly back. Definitely invite you back. And I feel a bit rude, but yeah, we do need to kick her out now, don't we, Sarah?
we do.
Before
Legally speaking, we absolutely have to. Thank you so much, Dolly, and yeah, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I have got some links for the Free the Press. So there's a Telegram group that people can join and find out kind of updates of what's going on. And there is also an email address if anyone wants to get in touch and come and help us get involved with organising, sorting out a party.
Fantastic. So I'll add those into all the blurbs, so anybody that's interested can have those. And then so you and Gabby have bail conditions where you can't speak to each other right now. So that is the reason that you are having to leave, and then we bring Gabby in. So quite an unusual but interesting situation, but thank you very much for joining us.
I don't know if you can send my love to Gabby, but if you can do,
we absolutely will.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Bye.
Bye, Dolly.
Bye, loves.
Okay, I'm just admitting Gabby. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
We are okay. Yeah, good. We ended on the big plans for the lockdown march and the anti-austerity on the, was it 26th and 27th?
Yeah, of June. Get them dates in your diary.
That sounds really exciting.
Well, you were talking for so long, and I was like, oh my god, they must be really getting into it, or something terrible has happened. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here with everyone. You guys are doing a good job, and Yeah, I was actually just thinking before I joined, I was like, why am I wearing a navy white stripy top? Because XR's got such a middle class reputation, and this is the uniform of the middle class woman. I was like, what a choice, eh? But yeah, what do you want to know about?
So if we can just get you and Alice just to do a little introduction about who you are and why you have very, very thankfully for us joined us to speak to us a bit this afternoon. Just tell us a little bit about what you both do, what your roles are, and then we can get into the details. Gabs, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I've done XR for a long time. And then when Burning Pink came along, have you talked about Burning Pink yet? You haven't? Oh my God. Okay. Well, it's just a really necessary part of what needs to change. And it's running for elections in local councils and filling councils up with normal people that want citizens' assemblies rather than politicians making decisions. So it just seems like such a no-brainer. However, it's really hard work because you've basically got to mobilize your local community, build them up really strong, and have them trust you. So like the legwork that goes along with it is like really intense, but obviously we haven't got any time left to like dick around, so just got to get on and do it. But yeah, and I've done the XR stuff for a while, and now I've started working with Alice on the rebels in prison support, because if we need to get anywhere close to the change we need to see, we need to have hundreds of people in prison by the end of the year, and them's the facts. So let's start a support network to make that decision a lot easier for people, because at the minute it's a difficult decision anyway, but if you can go in and know that you've got a support network and people that are going to look after you and keep your message alive, then it will make that step a little bit easier. So yeah, that's me. I'll let Alice go.
Hi. It sort of all came from my mum, really, doing her actions. She was really, well, for years, we've been doing the whole sitting in the road with a sign and a banner and nobody listening, no media coverage, no nothing, just my mum as well and myself and the children at times, which is really frustrating. We're a bit behind up here. It's a bit lonely up in Lancashire for the activism side of things. There's generally just normally my mum and me filming. That's about it. So yeah, obviously we need more people, like what Gabby just said. I know the suffragettes smashed 373 windows, so I've got a lot of catching up to do, basically, to make a big change that we really need. So yeah, I just think the support is really essential, and I've personally been coming up with lots of ideas for the content, but Gabby, when I reached out with the initial idea, was absolutely amazing. You actually got me really excited about it, Gabby, as well. And with the fundraising side of things, which is essential, especially for some of the ideas I've had as well, we definitely need some funding for the email support. Obviously, emails aren't free, are they? Even though it's a free service in prison, emails aren't free, and they come in black and white pictures. So on the content side of things, I think artwork and poetry and things like that. Tracy gave a tip where you can stick it up, with toothpaste on your cell, which I think was brilliant. So yeah, I've been working on the content really. But yeah, it'd be really nice to reach out for more support for other people for things like the letter writing, because I'm doing personalised letters for people. I think that's really important, and handwritten, and I'm adding things like breathing, meditation, and yoga exercises. Sorry, my children are coming in the door, that's why I'm a bit distracted here.
Have a mute a second, we'll have a chat with Gabby.
It's okay, she's gone back out now. All right, well, you can if you want though. She's like, yeah.
What else is there? Yeah, I guess it's really simple. When I was sending Tracy's fan mail to her while she was in prison, and there was a lot, I couldn't believe that you had to pay for emails. And I don't mind, but I thought there's loads of people that would be happy to pay for this. And then it was like when someone else, I think maybe when Tracy went in the same time, I didn't know who was in control of her email and whether to set one up, or maybe it was your mum even, Alice. but I didn't want to tread on toes. So I thought, why have we not got like a little network that's just a working group that's in charge of keeping tabs on people in prison? Because we've got a bit of a group going on with the Disobey in the Dock to keep an eye on those people. But apart from that, there's not one for people going to prison. And it just seems like, why has this not already existed? So we've just kind of set it up, and the thing we have to do is we just need to set up a bloody bank account. It's an absolute nightmare, like trying to set up a bank account, but I think this is probably the nudge we need to maybe do it maybe tomorrow, Alice. Set the bank account up, and then it's really easy to fundraise. It takes like an hour to put a page up. So yeah, it's happening. We're looking after people. We just need to give it a more official front so that other people can donate money easily. It just makes sense to have like a donate thing. And it's not just for XR either. We thought it would be for anyone doing any non-violent action that's like political, so it would cover the Palestine action people. You need to do an episode on Palestine action. And yeah, Burning Pink, XR, all the kind of protest groups. And we defined non-violence as anything that doesn't cause harm to a human or animal body. So, it doesn't, people's definitions of violence are different, but ours is that. So anyone in that situation will get our support, which is sending people stuff, setting them up a support network, making sure their messages are going out on social media. We also thought, right, you can do, because how can we get money regularly from people? You can have adopt a prisoner, which will be like, so people, because my dad used to, well, I think he still does, he sponsors a child in India and like sends them to school, and they get like pictures every now and then. So I thought, how funny and good would it be to do that kind of service for RIPS, Rebels in Prison Support, short for RIPS. So we're going to try and do that. I guess we just have to test it out and see how it goes, but I think that could be a really fun thing to get going, because like I said, we need to get hundreds of people in prison, so we need to make it the most fun and enjoyable experience for everyone involved. And I think, Tracy, you said something about before that, was it there was a song playing and you were going to have like a little party in your cells at that time? And then we thought, well, if we get everyone on the same radio station, we can give them shout outs in prison while they're there, thanks to the rebels, and they'll be like, ah! Yeah, so I think that's the goal really, is to make it the most pleasant experience possible for people by offering all that support. Have I missed anything, Alice?
No, you're right there. Just as much positivity as we can possibly get to, those people who are literally sacrificing all the freedoms, for all of us, for all our futures. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. So yeah, anything we can do, any way we can support you. So yeah.
It is hard supporting too, though. So I like this because it's a way of the supporters supporting each other as well. Having been inside and been Paula's and Zach's support in a way, it's exhausting. So we all need each other out and in. And when I was in the cell the other day, I thought there's another thing we need our supporters to do. When a lot of us get locked up, Gabby and I were talking, we're a little bit terrified we'll be in at the point social collapse happens, right? And we'll get forgotten and locked up and starve in a cell.
That is my worst fear, genuinely. I was talking to Tracy about this before. I'm pretty hardcore now. I can cope with a lot. I've been through it. But the thought of starving to death in a cell after social collapse happens, because we don't know when it's going to happen. It could be 5 years, 10 years, it could be 50 years. But I don't want to be in a cell when it happens, because there's no way they're going to release all the prisoners. They'll keep all the prisoners where they are, and they will die where they are. And the thought of that, and even one of my other friends said to me, she was like, oh, I mean, it could be worse. This could happen or that could happen. I was like, even in that situation, you're thinking it could be worse. I don't think of anything worse than that happening. So yeah, that's what I'm really worried about. So I'm thinking maybe I get some prison time in sooner, and then when it looks like, or arrange all the rebels to make sure they come and bust us the fuck out of prison when it happens. I mean, logistically that would be a nightmare. How they would do that, I don't know, but yeah, can we make a plan for that, please?
Or just to have people outside at least reminding them that there are all sorts of prisoners and political prisoners at that point should be released.
Everyone should be released. I don't,
This is true.
I mean, I would release everyone, but I don't think they would.
I'm not as kind as you. I'm not sure I'd release everyone.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, how would you even make that decision? That's a whole nother.
So if people, sorry, we went a bit dark there, but if people want to get involved with helping, so there's helping with the newsletter that Alice was talking about. If you've got drawings or poems or anything that you would like to get put in this newsletter, how can people get in touch if they've got ideas? Or
that's a very good question. One of the things we need to do is set up social media platforms, but I've set up so many now that it's like I don't want to create another one, but I think it is kind of necessary. So if you can help with social media, I guess you can get me on my email address or on Instagram or Facebook. It's Gabriella Ditton on everything. Just message me directly if you can help with anything social media, or you just want to be involved with it. We're quite a small group at the minute, but I'm sure it'll get bigger, and we've got to do a website as well, so if you can help with that, that'd be really great. There's lots to do, and we need to get a move on with it, really, Alice. I know it's not you, it's me, it's totally me.
It's okay. Don't take all the pressure on yourself, Gabby. I think we need to reach out for support, really. I think we need more people. Everyone's obviously got lives. We've all got very busy lives, and so it's understandable that we all need, we do need support. We all need help.
And I think like this could be answered by any of you, really, so feel free to chip in. But I think a question a lot of people are asking is why prison? Why does the movement want to put a lot of people in prison? What is the motivation behind that?
Well, I guess it's worked a lot in the past. What generally happens is, obviously we've tried everything else first. That's not your first go-to prison. But when people realise that hundreds of people are choosing to go to prison instead of be complicit in business as usual, that's like an extra, it gets in people's hearts. Even if they see people blocking a road, that's why I'm so excited about Rebellion of One, because people are going to be single person roadblock. It's super vulnerable. You can't help but that does something to you when you see someone putting themselves at risk like that. And what bigger way to make a personal sacrifice? I mean, I don't think suicide works because you can be portrayed as a crazy person, but sitting in a jail cell by choice, I think, is incredibly powerful. And in the beginning, a few people that won't care, but the more people that do it, the less fearful other people become. But I think it just resonates with you, and it moves you in a way that I don't think many people experience generally in their life, like mass sacrifice. So I think people can't help but be moved by it, look into what's going on, go, holy Christ, this is real, I need to join. So it's just a way of getting more people on board with your cause if you're prepared to make that sacrifice for it. That's my answer.
I'd just like to add a little bit. It's every time I go to one of these courts or do an action, I'm hoping I don't have to go to prison. I've just acknowledged that that's a risk that I'm able to and prepared to take. We have to challenge the courts and the corporations, and the only way to do that, because they've been ignoring us for so long, is to take the drastic action which comes with court, which comes with an opportunity to try and ask a judge or a jury to do better than we've done before. So we are just unfortunately at the point where we have to take the action that will get into the newspapers, because we've tried all sorts, like this is what it takes, and then we have to get into the courts to say to the people who are at the moment protecting corporations over people, are you sure you're making the right choice? And they're starting to maybe agree with us that they haven't been making the right choices. So we only have 5 minutes left on this account.
Can I quickly squeeze in about the council tax strike really quickly?
Please do.
So we're having, I don't know when you'll put this out, but we're having a meeting on Monday, an action briefing. We'll probably do another one soon. The website www.counciltaxstrike.co.uk is going to go online very soon. It's so almost done. Otherwise, you can find us everywhere on social media. It's mostly going to be about mobilising local communities. So although you can do an all right tax strike yourself and be included in the campaign, it's going to be more about mobilising the community, getting hundreds of people to sign up to a tax strike where they only take £10 off a month. So it's a massive effort for the council to come after them, but people feel quite safe doing that because they're doing it with 400 other people. So it's going to happen in Norwich and Bristol and Ipswich for sure, but it will probably be other places as well, and you'll probably hear about it very soon, and it's going to be great. Get involved. Council tax strike, council tax strike, council tax strike.
And I think locally, my group is kind of, because there aren't many people talking about it, people are kind of just talking about like withholding it to get attention, then writing about why they're withholding it. Even if you then start immediately paying again, you've made the point. And the more people that register this and say, hey, I'm not happy with this, where is my tax going? You're not telling me, I'm not happy for it to be going towards things that are environmentally damaging. That is an action in itself, and pretty risk-free, just a little bit of...
Yeah, you don't get a criminal record and it doesn't affect your credit score, and you can pay it back at any time, and you can take it right to the court where they want to like send. If you withdraw completely, they'll take you right up to the court case to send you to prison. You can go all right and give it to them, and that's the end of it. So it's so much you can do with it. It's just a great idea, and why we're not doing it already. Yeah, but lots of people are doing it by themselves, and then we've kind of found them and we've made a little group, and now we're going to make more people do it. So yay. Fantastic.
Does anyone have anything they haven't had opportunity to say?
So much. I could talk forever, and there's so much going on. Have you talked about the Shell 7? Have you mentioned that? See, look, there's so much.
Very briefly. We're going to do another one. We're going to get together on Monday, me and Sarah, and do another one. We'll definitely be inviting you back, Gabby. Alice, is there anything you'd like to say, Ad?
I've not said anything helpful. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you have. I'm sorry, it was all a bit...
I started talking, my daughter came in and started trying to mime things to me, so I was like... Yeah, sorry about that.
I love it.
No, it's been really nice, and we'll definitely, it'll be really nice to have you guys back. It's just been really enjoyable.
I think we could do this all the time, and you can just get people in who have done different actions, and it's like a visual podcast.
Yeah,
I love it. We need to get you a jingle.
Yeah, we do. We'd like a logo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Sorry, this one was a bit rushed. We will get better at it. I'd just like to say, please email Dave McKenny. He's in prison for disobeying in the dock. He's our political prisoner at the moment. And thank you, Alice. I think, what you're doing is brilliant. And it gave me so much hope when I'd come out of prison, and knowing that I go back in. So I think you did better than you think you have. And we'll make some time, and we'll go through it again once we get a few more volunteers step forward from this video.
And we'll have to get Susan, your mum, on the podcast as well.
That would be amazing. That really would. Yeah, she's incredible. That would be good.
She is.
Thank you to all of you. It's been a really fun one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Stop that recording.